Welcome to the webinar AI and the Church, Part 2, Parish Practices. I'm John Poitevent. I'm the founder and director of Great Catholic Parishes, and I'm so glad that you joined us today. This topic of AI is one that is in front of everyone right now. You either think that it's amazing, you're curious about it, or you think it's the beginning of the end. And I would say that it's probably all of those. There are things that we should be concerned about. There's also amazing ways that it can help us be more effective and efficient in our work in making disciples. And so for today's webinar, I've talked to some parish leaders. I've gotten some feedback from a lot of you, and I'm going to share some things that are from my own experience and what I've discovered about AI. So I want to get started by talking to a pastor that really got me interested in the ways that AI could be used in parish ministry. That's Father Pat Garrett. Father Pat is at St. Simon and Jude in Houston, Texas, in the Woodlands area. And I've been working with his parish for about a year on creating apostolates within their parish, helping ministries see that their job is not just to minister to people, but to make disciples of the people serving within their ministry. And we've been using it for all different creative ways in creating workshops, helping people get a vision for how their ministry is a part of that Great Commission to make disciples. And Father Pat, I'll just tell you, in his other life, he was an engineer in the oil and gas industry. And so he is a little more of an innovator, early adopter when it comes to technology, unique to a lot of people in his vocation. I'll just say that. But I'm grateful for him because he's helping us learn as he goes and he tries these things. So let's take a look at that now. This is my conversation with Father Pat Garrett. Father Pat, thank you for joining me today. And, you're kind of responsible for all of this because I was working with your parish and you were talking to me about using magisterium to run some things through. And I was like, what is that? And you said, it's Catholic AI. And, our last webinar, we had the CEO of Magisterium on, but you're an early adopter. Tell us how you first started using Magisterium and what you did with it.
Yeah, well, I just kind of stumbled on magisterium.com, probably saw an ad somewhere on some site and started, just kind of playing with it, asking it some questions, looking at some scripture study, using it as like another commentary, right? I'd ask it to look at a passage or a reading and give me some commentaries. I like quoting Saint Pope John Paul II and Pope Benedict and Pope Francis. And what I started finding was that it was a great resource. If I had kind of an idea that they said something at some point or whatever, that I could use it as kind of an advanced Google search to go out there and ask it about that concept and say, hey, what did Pope St. John Paul II say about this? Or what did Pope Benedict say about this? And what I love about the site is that it gives you footnotes, right? It gives you a summary, it gives you a quote from a document, but then it footnotes it so you can go to the actual document and you can read the actual document. So as I looked at it, I could go back and find the full document and everything on it and be able to verify what it was telling me and find the exact quote that I was kind of thinking about that I sort of remembered them saying and be able to use that.
Yeah, you bring up an important point, and that is AI is only as trustworthy as the documents that it's going to for information. And with Magisterium, it is a system that is set up for it to go to those church documents. And we hear these quotes all the time from Pope Leo or whoever, and we don't even know. We're like, I think Abraham Lincoln said that. I don't know. I don't know that Pope Leo actually said that. So it's a trustworthy source that we can go to for these things. What other kind of research have you used it for? Maybe share with us how you would use it for homily preparation.
Yeah, so I use it as another commentary that I use in my homily preparation. So I will ask it to give me some theological and historical points about the readings for the time. And then again, it'll come back with some information, just like a commentary. And then I'll use that to build around my homily. I also do a little podcast on Fridays where I kind of summarize the readings and give a little bit of historical background. And I've got about 3 or 4 different commentaries that I refer to with that. And the Magisterium AI has become one of those commentaries. I'll look at the different areas and get different points from them and kind of put together the picture I want to put together on the scriptures and the message that I want to deliver about the scripture passages.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding that they think priests are going to use this to replace the work of preparing a homily, but it actually takes hours and hours that you might have to spend in researching all these things and finding them, and it brings them to you instantaneously. And then you can prayerfully craft what you want to say as you feel led. And I think that's just one of the great things about AI is how much it saves time and allows us to do things more effectively. You've also used it in working with developing ministry leaders some.
Yeah,
Um,
that was the surprising thing to me, right? The work that I was doing with you, we were looking at kind of a strategic plan and how do we make disciples and what kinds of things can we do to make disciples out of our ministers and get them to grow in discipleship. And so I started posing questions to magisterium.com about pastoral work. And at first I said, "Oh, it's not going to give me anything. This is, but I'll give it a chance and see what it says." And, surprisingly, particularly Pope St. John Paul II, he did a lot of pastoral homilies, right? He went out to the churches there in Rome and, was the Bishop of Rome and delivered pastoral homilies. A lot of good ideas would come out of that. And of course, the magisterium itself has produced various pastoral documents and all. And the more I searched on these things, it really came up with some good ideas, things that maybe we had talked about and done. But, this was fantastic to be able to go back to our ministers and say, well, look, here's what St. John Paul II said about this, or here's what the Vatican says about this, and add a little more credibility to the ideas, the thoughts of how we might minister to our ministers.
one thing I thought was great in the work that we did and was kind of a breakthrough for me personally is, we want ministry leaders to have their own vision for why their ministry exists and how it serves the mission to make disciples. But it's kind of hard for them to just start with a blank slate in creating a statement towards that. And what we found, we kind of gained some information from them. We plugged it into Magisterium and said, create a why statement or create a few of them. And it gave them a few rough drafts to work from that helped inspire their own statement about their ministry. And I think that it saved time and it helped people creatively break through who might not have gotten there on their own.
But, we were kind of trying to change the focus, right? That ministers normally think, okay, I'm a minister, I'm here to serve the poor. And what we wanted our minister leaders to look at was not just how they serve the poor, but how they develop ministers who serve the poor, how they make disciples of their ministers. And by posing questions to magisterium.com and getting them to develop some statements, was able to give them some examples where they could break through that thinking and they could break through and see, okay, yeah, this is what we need to do to make disciples of our ministers.
And you and I didn't have to sit down for hours and create ideas for every ministry in your parish. The magisterium was able to help us really expedite that work. And then we could kind of tweak it from what we
Yeah.
got back.
I mean, we were able to create volumes of work, but probably too much, right? We had to go back and ask Magisterium to summarize it a little
Yeah.
more. I mean, it would provide every level of detail with it.
Yeah. I think that leads us to another great question is, what other platforms have you used and what have you learned from using AI? As I've used it more, I've learned how to better use it. For parish leaders out there that are maybe going to try it out for the first time, what are some suggestions you'd give them?
Yeah, well, magisterium.com is the only paid AI that I use, right? Use the free AI that comes with Google and Microsoft and all those. The biggest thing is continuing to try to figure out how to structure your question to help it understand what you're trying to get at. Now, my staff is using ChatGPT and other AI tools and have done some magnificent things with that. But I stick strictly to magisterium.com because I like that church authority, right? And knowing that everything comes from a magisterium document. And so that's been my sole source for those kind of things. And the real challenge has been to know the concept and understand what you're trying to communicate. You still have to do that heavy work. And then, have AI help you find the resources, help you find the quotes, help you find the things that you can do to support the concept that you're trying to communicate.
Yeah, I think I've had that same experience with, you learn better how to pose the questions in a way that it understands or how to refine things as you go further into it. It's kind of like learning another language. You can say something, but that doesn't mean that they're going to understand it the way that you mean it. And the more that I use it, the more I learn how to phrase things better to get the answers that I want. If there are some parish leaders out there watching this that are afraid of trying AI, what would you suggest to them to help them feel more comfortable and just get out there and experience it?
Well, I think there's lots of ways to just try it, right? And, it's try but verify, right? You can't just take what it gives you and just copy and paste it. You've got to delve into it and, really try to understand where it's coming from and what its logic is that it's using. And again, that's why I like magisterium.com because it footnotes the Bible passages that it's summarizing or that it's building off of. And so that you can see what it's doing and how it's thinking, which is another one of the things I really like about magisterium.com. When I talk about, trying to rework the questions, it'll show you kind of its thought process. It'll kind of show you what questions it's asking itself out of your question. So it'll show you how it kind of repositioned your question to actually go through and search its documents and do its document search. And in reading that as it goes through, I'll have a better way of knowing how to pose the question to get closer to what I'm trying to really ask it. Because yeah, it's interpreting it right and knowing that it's going in that right direction.
Yeah, and as you said, you have a paid subscription, but you can use it for free. I use it free all the time. Don't tell Matthew Harvey Sanders, but I don't have a subscription to it. But the paid version, I'm sure it more keeps track of what you've been doing. It builds on that and it begins to learn you, right? And what
Right.
you're interested in.
And this whole idea of posing multiple questions to get to the right question, right? I mean, that's why I went to the paid version, is because I started realizing that I didn't even know the question to ask at first. And the paid version, you can ask it multiple questions.
Yeah. And, you said it made a mistake. I interestingly had that same issue today with it, but it does make mistakes. It's not perfect. But again, you'll hear me say this many times, it's the worst it will ever be. Like with that issue, someone's going to report that to them in probably 30 seconds. They will have that programming fixed. It's constantly learning and it's just going to get better and better and better. Father Pat, thank you so much for your time today and for being an innovator. Thank you for being a forerunner that goes out there and tries these things so that we can learn from you. We need more leaders like you in the church, and I'm grateful for you.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Father Pat, I mean, he was amazing me when I was working with him on this workshop and all the ways that he was using AI to help do research for us and put some creative ideas together that we then evolved into making them more specific and personal to what we're doing. Another innovator at Father Pat's parish, not a big surprise that he hires innovative people and he gives them freedom to utilize it, is Brian Falcon. He's the director of media and visual creative for St. Simon and Jude. And, there's a lot of different ways that we use AI. Father Pat is sharing some research ways and creative ways, but visual creative and copy creative, the language around marketing, advertising, promotion, communications, all of that is a great way to utilize AI. Brian, if you watched my last webinar, he is who created this avatar for me that I used in my last in the last webinar for AI. He's going to share some other ways that he uses AI at St. Simon and Jude for creative purposes. So let's check that out now. Brian, thank you for joining us today. And you also introduced me to a lot of this stuff. I was doing a workshop at St. Simon and Jude, and you showed me how during the last like half hour of the workshop, you went around and took pictures and video, that you had an AI tool create a song about growing his disciples, and you dropped it all into an app that made a 30-second promo video from it. You did all that as you were kind of like walking out the door for the day. And I was just like, wow, we've got to get this guy on a webinar. So thank you for joining us today, and can't wait to hear all that you've got to share with us.
Oh, thank you. When we met, I was like, I think we listened to all the same music in high school and ever since then. And so we got along real quick, and it was a lot of fun sharing that with you. And I've had a lot of fun just finding new ways of using all the technology.
To be fair, you're a video producer. That's your background. So you have a lot of expertise in this, but there's also a lot of tools out there that help people do it simply. But I want to start big picture. Share with us something big and wild that you've done that utilizes a lot of technology and knowledge, but it gives people a chance to kind of see what's possible.
I've been working on a project outside of this church, but for another church group that is doing they've got a lot of catechism videos. There's about 40 videos on the catechism. It's a pretty long series, and they were wanting to convert it to Spanish. And I'd been talking to them for several years. And in the past, to do it in Spanish was all we could do would be subtitles. And 20 plus hours of subtitles just wasn't going to be very engaging. And about a year ago, I started really looking more and more at AI, and it was like I could see the future of what it could do. And so we started testing things back and forth, and I'll show you a sample of one of them in English and then in Spanish. But it took a lot of testing, and about a year ago, what you're going to see now wasn't even possible with AI. And about 9 months, it was doing pretty good, and about 6 months ago, it started doing really good. I'll just go in real quick and show a sample.
By praying to the saints, we mean the asking of their help and prayers. How do we know that the saints hear us? We know that the saints hear us because they are with God, who makes our prayers known to them. Por rezar a los santos entendemos pedir su ayuda y oraciones. ¿Cómo sabemos que los santos nos escuchan? Sabemos que los santos nos escuchan porque están con Dios, quien les hace conocer nuestras oraciones.
And kind of what everybody's getting used to is you're seeing things like that and you think, oh, well, that's just all AI. It's all AI. There was a lot of AI in there, but it was actually the video. Like what you were seeing was actually Father Polari delivering that in English first. That was 100% him. That was on a green screen where they put a background, added the text. And what I was able to do was use one old speech to text where it did speech to English text, and then used another one where it did the English text to Spanish. And then I had the 3 people I'm working with that are all from different countries, but Spanish speakers. I'll check because Spanish has so many different dialects. Check it, and then they decided on which dialect they were going to use and confirmed everything. And they've been diligently making sure it's accurate. But what the AI did was it just redrew his mouth. So instead of the old, like when you click on something and it's been lip dubbed, it gets a little annoying because the lips just don't match. Well, what this does is it actually just redraws his mouth to match. And so it's actually just redrawing this part right here. So the only AI that you saw was actually that. The voice was actually an AI clone of his own voice. And then there was a whole lot of traditional editing of replacing the English text that was on the screen with Spanish text. So that was like covering up the English, redoing all in Spanish and putting that in there. But we have spent a lot of time where they're diligently going through checking to make the accuracy of it. So none of it's left up to AI. It's none of this crazy stuff that's just flying off the handle. It's being checked. But that's actually a project that's quite a bit out of the range of a lot of a church. And that even with this group, there's a lot of entities working together on that. So that's kind of a pie in the sky one.
Brian, I can hear people out there watching right now saying that is so far out of our scope. We don't have the budget for that. We don't have the knowledge for that. But people could use AI simply to translate announcements, even use an avatar if they don't have someone. And that's all relatively free and available for the basic user, right?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of sources, and every week there's more and more coming out, especially in short form. The stuff I was doing was long, 20-minute and 2-hour long things, and that's a whole different ballgame. But there's a lot coming out where you can do 10 and 20 seconds, and it is super engaging. We have done some where when I have time to do like some announcements or something or an event that's coming up, our Spanish community here in the Woodlands is growing really, really big. And whenever we do have the time to make that one announcement or promoting an event coming up and just convert it into Spanish, they just light up because it really connects. And we make sure that it's accurate.
It's not hard to have someone watch it and give us a critique on it. And for one of the biggest arguments I hear against translation is, oh, we can't trust AI translation. Listen, I've spoken with translators a lot. You know who you can't trust? Human translators. Just to be fair, many times I've come down from a platform and had someone say to me, what that person said is not what you meant, because they're hearing it in their understanding of English and their understanding of theology or whatever your point is. And that's live. And you don't have a chance to go back and edit that. So I would just say with this AI translation, will it make some mistakes? Sure. Humans make mistakes too, but you have it captured and you can actually share it with someone to edit it for you. That argument of we can't trust it, I don't think that flies at all because it can always be checked before it goes out. Have you experienced pretty good accuracy with it?
Yeah, even the AI in just 3 months is noticeably different. Like we've done some where we'll do a promotional for an announcement and I pass it around, and just months ago, and especially a year ago, I'd pass it around and we had several that I worked on and I took it to 3 people. And by the time we were done, we didn't show it because we're like, oh, that's just not it. You know, that it was like, that's not how we would say it. The accent's really wrong. It sounds like a computer trying to speak Spanish, and it was just not. And then, 3 months ago, was able to do some, and they were like, oh yeah, that worked. And I had a few of them say, well, that's not how we say it back where I come from, but I understood what it meant. And then last week we did one. I literally had one that was like 2 minutes long, and they changed one word. There was one word that one person changed, and it was just kind of a dialect. When we went to the Spanish community outside of our administration office here, they looked at it and they were like, they literally applauded it because it was so accurate and it spoke to them and it sounded like what they needed to hear. And it was just, it just shows that effort. I mean, especially being able to communicate, get the English community speaking with the Spanish community, and just showing that the effort that we want to be able to communicate back and forth. And I love that because I absolutely love Mexican food. And anytime I can get invited to more of their events, I'm in.
It's great. Well, it's a growing need, and especially parishes that don't have a priest or someone on staff that's a native Spanish speaker. And like the dialects thing, I mean, listen, in your parish, I'm sure you have Cubans, Puerto Ricans, people from Mexico, people from South America. And if one of them does an announcement, it's going to be a dialect different than many of the other Spanish speakers. So that's just a reality that we have to deal with regardless.
We've got English speakers from Louisiana I can't understand sometimes.
Well, let's move on to something a little more transferable for everybody, and that is the bulletin. Something that we deal with bulletins or any kind of imagery and communications is copyrighted photos, stock photography, and all of that. And even within what's available out there, not being able to get exactly what you want. So show us what you did for a bulletin cover recently to get exactly what you wanted, and tell us what it cost you in the end.
Oh yeah, it cost us less time than me going out and shooting. There's so many times where you might be with a group and go, what do we need for the bulletin cover? Oh, I want an image. And everybody can imagine an image of what they want. And so many times it's for an event that hasn't happened yet. And in the past, I was always like, how can I have a photo of something that hasn't even happened yet? But as an example, for Grandparents' Day, we wanted an image of grandparents. And everybody thought, well, we can show an image of these two grandparents. Well, when the first time you look at that, you're going, well, is that an image of two people? I mean, you don't know that they're grandparents. And so we had the idea of, well, we need to show the generation of the grandparents, their kids, and then their grandchildren in an image. Well, I don't have an image of that. So looking through Adobe Stock, this first one's actually could be, you could do this in AI. I happened to find one in Adobe Stock because it fit with what I was thinking of looking at really fast. And so this first Adobe Stock image was like, this was what I wanted. I've got some grandparents, their kid and the grandkids, but that wasn't at St. Simon and Jude. We have pine trees, not oak trees. It's actually our courtyard. And so I wanted to put them in our courtyard. Photoshop can do that. Photoshop's a lot better than I am, but within seconds, I gave it this prompt and I wanted a watercolor style. So I said, make a watercolor style image of the family and place them in the courtyard. And within seconds, it came back like this, which was exactly, and honestly, even better than what I thought it was going to be. I really loved the texture, the look of it. Being it was a little watercolor, it kind of toned down the people, and I really liked it. But I did have an issue with this bench right behind them and this one light pole that goes into the grandfather's leg. Photoshop, I would have gone in and actually had to cut all that out and replace it with stuff, but just did one more prompt, same image without the light post and bench and the two people on the bench. And it was done. This did it so much faster than I could have done or anybody I know could have done. And it was able to get the concept out. This has been great. This happened to have been done in Google's Gemini, and it's done some great things. I've actually tried some old images that I used in ChatGPT, and I even used the prompt that I used in ChatGPT in a different one just to see it create something different. And that's been really successful. And then you showed me some that I was really enjoying watching how they came about and how it really seems like you don't have to have stock. You don't always have to buy the stock, but when you can create it.
Yeah, for those of you that have zero budget for any of this, you don't have to buy the stock. You don't need Photoshop. You could do what he just did for free in a matter of minutes. And I'll share with you real quick. I was looking for an image to support a talk I was giving on accompaniment. And an illustration that Julianne Stans uses a lot is that accompaniment is like helping her son learn to ride a bike. And I thought, I'd love to have an image of that while I talk about it. So I went into Meta's image generator and asked it to create an image for me of a mom helping her son learn to ride a bike. And this is what it created for me. I mean, it couldn't have been better if I hired models to go and shoot it. It was just perfect. So one thing people say that they don't have access to for great website photos, for example, is, well, we don't want to take pictures of people without their permission. And then if we do it with their permission, we have to schedule it and get them there. And it probably need better lighting or cameras. You don't need any of that. You can create great pictures of people at your parish doing things and have zero royalty, zero stock fees, and have a great website, great announcements, whatever you need it for. Any other thoughts on the image generation stuff, Brian, and what you've used it for?
I like using a lot where, especially when doing our bulletins, where I add like a paint effect or oil paint or something like that. It gives it a little softer thing. And then people also don't look at it going, is that AI? And you're like, it's a painting. It doesn't, you're not trying to fool them or anything like that. But there's times where I need like a photo. And then the cool thing is, what's a lot of fun is play with it, try different things with family and friends. And so there's a lot of times we'll work with our priest here and I'll have him in what looks like an oil painting. It helps connect that image to your church. And everybody really enjoys that because they feel like they recognize it. And like the one I showed where I used the background was actually our courtyard here. And then even doing more biblical themes, we've had a lot of stuff with Jesus and all those where we needed an image of Jesus walking down the road. We've been able to create those too.
Yes, it really, the only thing we're limited to is our imagination when it comes to using AI for images that we need that could represent any kind of announcement or story we're trying to tell. And it really doesn't limit it to our imagination. It'll throw us 4 or 5 ideas. You select one of those ideas, and then you begin to tell AI how you want it to be different. And it, sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off. But the more you work with it, the more you learn how to communicate with it to get what you need. You've also used it for scripts, for writing. Share with us about that, how you use it to help you create announcements or videos to promote things.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We did find that during announcements, a lot of times we might have somebody that's going to be out on the plaza handing out something or an event coming up. And if you had somebody from the event come up and talk about it, what's supposed to be a minute starts stretching in about 5 minutes. And everybody in the crowd is really thinking about where they're going to lunch that day. And it just stretches things out. So we did find that there's occasionally we'll do part of an announcement, but we do more like a commercial. And that way we can control that it's only 1 minute and it's pretty quick. We also found that when the announcements are going along, a lot of people are fidgeting around or they're thinking about how, what's after mass and lunch. But we did find when we put a video up, all the eyes go to the screen and the information gets to them. And then with the video and the text, having the audio and the visual of the text of what time the event's going to happen, it has really, really helped. And it's been very effective. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from it. But writing a script for that, a lot of times, like somebody, if I went to somebody that's hosting, like we had one that it was for kids' meals. And it's another food packing event to help kids that don't normally get their meals. And, if I went to the person that's organizing it, she's not a script writer. She's not a producer. And you can get somebody that can write beautiful emails, but writing a script for a video that's timed to 1 minute is a different thing. I'll show an example here. And what I did was I called the lady that was organizing the event. I took my phone, I put it next to the speakerphone, and I went to the memos on the iPhone. There's an audio recording memo, hit that, where it was just recording us talking. And then I told her, I said, talk for several minutes. Tell me about what the organization is that you're working with. Tell me what y'all want to do, and then tell me about the event that we're going to have. And she just very conversationally talked for about 3 minutes about it, but that had to get down to 1 minute script. From that memo, as soon as you hit stop, it'll make a text transcript for you. So I copied and pasted that transcript to a text file, dropped that into ChatGPT. Then she sent me a small PowerPoint that she uses for presentations. And her presentations were actually different than this particular event, but it had information about what the organization is. The PDF was actually the bulletin ad for the event. So dropped all of those in there. So I had the transcript, her PowerPoint, then our ad that's going in there. A kind of neat thing you can do is play with your prompts. One good suggestion is starting out with you tell ChatGPT act as a high-end agency director scriptwriter. And so then it knows that it needs to write a video script. And a lot of times I'll actually use that word video script for St. Simon and the Jude Catholic Church. So it knows all that context. Then make it between 60 and 80 seconds. It will use the PowerPoint slides with some of the graphics as needed, and with a call to action or bringing donations and serving food at a food packing event. That was the only prompt I gave it to it. And within seconds, it comes back with what I would normally get back from a scriptwriter, opening scene, and it would give suggestions for visuals, suggestions for music, and then it would give you the narrator voice. And this is really fun to do, really interesting, and instantly you can really see the difference between writing an email, writing an ad, and writing a script. Because the script is meant to be spoken, where an ad is meant to be read, and it's actually a different kind of thing. Then for here, there's a lot of different programs, different AIs, and you can look at various ones. Like I use 11 Labs. You can put text in, and then you can pick a voice, and it reads it back to you. And then I use some stock videos that I found from Adobe Stock. And then I also was playing again with Google's Gemini and created about 3 different videos. And I used the prompts that it actually suggested for the visuals. And I tweaked them just a little bit, as I went. But even the first one out of the gate was really good. So I wound up with 3 or 4 totally brand new AI stock video clips, and then 2 clips from a stock library that we're already paying for. Then some of the graphics from the PowerPoint, and was able to put together this video. And I can play the video. And now when you watch this, think of in the back, 2 of these clips are real, 3 of them are AI, and the voice is AI, and the script was written in AI. And this entire project, from the time I started the phone call till it was done and delivered, was 2.5 hours. I usually can't go to a lunch meeting in 2.5 hours, but this was really something.
Right here in Montgomery County, hundreds of children under the age of 5 go hungry every single day. Kids Meals works to change that, delivering fresh, healthy lunches straight to the homes of children who would otherwise go without. Every weekday, nearly 1,000 lunches are prepared and delivered to preschool-aged children. Last year alone, Kids Meals provided over 194,000 meals. And this year, the need is expected to rise to nearly 270,000. And now St. Simon and Jude is stepping in to help. We're collecting donations to create shelf-stable lunch kits, small juice boxes or water bottles, peanut butter crackers, fruit cups, applesauce pouches, granola bars, and other snacks. Every single item goes directly into the hands of a child who needs it. Then, on Sunday, October 12th, join us here at SSJ for our Kids Meals food packing event. Together, we'll create hundreds of ready-to-go lunch kits, packed with love and hope for local families. This is our chance to live out our faith, to be the hands and feet of Christ for children right here in our community. Donate, volunteer, serve. Together, we can make a difference.
The main thing was that the scripting, you really get the old who, what, why, where, when, and it gets it really well. And a lot of times it gets you some ideas. And I think, John, you even had some where it would add theological stuff in there that work.
Yeah, I just asked it to create, this was while we were talking earlier, I asked it to create a video announcement script for a hospitality ministry at St. Simon and Jude. And here is what it did. This is just ChatGPT. And I didn't ask it to add scripture or anything, but I said, give me an 800-word script for a video inviting people to join the hospitality ministry at St. Simon and Jude. And it says, welcome to St. Simon and Jude Parish, a community of faith where the love of Christ is alive, visible, and shared. And I mean, just for secular, so to speak, ChatGPT, that's pretty great, right? And then you come down to the second part. It says hospitality is more than just a friendly hello. It's a ministry of presence. Scripture reminds us, don't neglect hospitality, for through it, some of you have unknowingly entertained angels. At St. Simon and Jude, we take those words to heart. And then it goes on to invite people to share with them the different ways that they can serve. And then at the end, I said, hey, could you convert this script to a slideshow to use as a teleprompter on an iPad? And it produced a PowerPoint for me of all this script that I could just open up in an iPad and scroll through as someone is reading it while being videoed. So that all was created in a matter of like less than 15 seconds, just based on that one prompt. So look, I know you probably don't have a video producer. You probably don't have someone with all the experience that Brian does, but play around with this, try things. You'll be amazed at what you'll be able to create with the knowledge you have. And especially with writing, script writing, condensing things, as Brian said, you could just interview someone whose ministry you're announcing and plug that into ChatGPT and say, create a script from this or create an advertisement from it, and it will remove all the fluff and create an inspiring announcement from it. Brian, for people that are just starting out, what are some resources or platforms out there that you would recommend?
I highly recommend Canva. It can do a lot of the things that I quickly do in Photoshop. You can do in Canva, laying out your announcements and advertisements. You can even do some video clips. You can do so much in there, and it's very easy to collaborate and share with that one. I always tell everybody the instruction manuals on YouTube. There's thousands of short video clips of how-tos, and that one's really fantastic to work with. And so like on a budget, and especially quickly, there's even discounts and free things you can do at a church. So research some of those where you can get Canva for free, depending on your organization and all that. It's really been a very, very useful and just a fantastic resource. ChatGPT and all the other ones, try different ones. If you get one you really like, do consider paying for their minimum subscription. You will get some more out of it, because as you use it more, you'll hit some daily limits on it, because it's free up to a limit. And sometimes when you start really creating some images and you go, oh, I finally got it, one more, and it'll tell you, no, you're over the limit. So do consider paying for some subscriptions, getting a whole bunch of subscriptions out all over the place.
Yeah, I would agree. Canva is kind of your one-stop shop for visuals, slides, ads, all of that, social media, a lot you can do there. If you want help with video, I've had a lot of great experience with Descript. And for like $30 a month, you can get the full subscription and it will translate anything that you video into text. You can edit the text and it will edit the video and the audio at the same time. It will create for you an AI avatar of your voice so that you can make adjustments in your voice to things that were said or the voice of the person who was recorded. And just a lot of great stuff. It'll remove all the ums and uhs. I edit these webinars through that and it gets rid of a lot of the mistakes. Look into Descript. All those links will be there available for you in the email that goes out after this. Brian, anything you want to add to that?
Go to our YouTube page and click on our videos. That would be at St. Simon and Jude. It's been a lot of fun getting those out, and we've had a lot of really good interaction doing small podcasts throughout the week very consistently. And even with a lot of the ones, we're not using as much AI as people think. The AI is in the subtle parts of making the YouTube descriptions, giving us the suggestions for what to do on the content. You can do all kinds of stuff. And then just with the AI, just when you're sitting around, I tell people, I said, well, if you're sitting at home watching television and you just can't find something and you find yourself watching another rerun of something you've already seen, instead of wasting that 30 minutes to an hour doing that, go on YouTube and research something you don't normally look for, in AI and how to do something. And so it'll force you to think outside of the box, and then you'll start seeing some different ways where you can use it in your daily life and in work to speed up some things. I'm like, if I can get what I'm not good at done faster, then I could do what I'm good at better and do more of it.
Awesome, Brian. I wholeheartedly recommend all of that. Take some time to learn, explore. And thank you for being an innovator and a forerunner in this also, along with your pastor, Father Pat. And appreciate you sharing with us the great work that you're doing there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, really cool stuff. And I know some of you are thinking Brian knows way more than anybody at our parish, but there are a lot of practical tools you can use there for anybody. A lot of it is very user-friendly. So before we wrap up, and I want to share some real practical ways that your average person on staff at a parish is using AI, I want to say that I would love to work with your parish or your diocese. I've been doing that a lot lately. St. Simon and Jude is a parish that I've been working with very intentionally for the last year in helping their ministries grow as disciple-making apostolates within the parish. I was with another parish in Houston this past weekend. I'm working with their faith formation department and creating a lifelong faith formation model. A couple months ago, I was in Jefferson City, Missouri, and I did their summit for stewardship, and all the stewardship committees from all the parishes in Jefferson City in that diocese came together for a day, and we talked about how do we approach stewardship from a discipleship mindset. So whether you're at a parish or at a diocese, I'd love to talk to you more. I put a link in the chat if you want more information on my workshops, or just you want to talk about how we might work together on a project that you have. I'd love to hear from you. All right, I want to share with you, I am on several forums online in Facebook primarily. And I want to share with you, I posted in one of these discipleship forums, how do you use AI to make disciples? And I just want to read to you some of the creative and interesting ways that parish leaders are using AI. Laura said that I use AI regularly to help with OCIA lesson planning. Patrick said, I use it to plan pastoral council meetings. I used it to adapt the Stations of the Cross to make it hope-themed, adding my parish mission and vision to its library and some other inspirational documents, and got it to help me write a lot of the content for our website. Father Curtis says, I recently used Grok to help me plan a workshop for preachers with different talks in a weekend-long charismatic retreat. I gave the basic points of the talks with the objective and asked for Bible scriptures and quotes from the CCC to support each point. At time, I asked for support from other sources, popes, magisterium, psychologists, that AI would draw from to help create this plan. It made an outline for me, which I was able to expand and edit or change as I saw necessary. It was a great help. Jeff Horton said, I use it to simplify my verbose writing. I do too, Jeff. I've also used it to generate bulletin covers. It's a tool like any other. Don't use it just for the sake of using it, but because it's what works to help address a problem. Rebecca said, I use AI to help my own wordiness become shorter and to the point, which for me is a miracle. I also use it for social media, for a social media page I manage to help with catchy wording. Kathy said, I've used Magisterium AI to help find references. I've used a generic AI to ask for key points, theology, or themes of a book of the Bible or a church doc to help refresh my memory or just get different insights and viewpoints. And then Gary said, we've used AI to assist with Spanish translation. Native speakers decided it was easier to start with AI translation and then develop it from that. I want to share with you something I want to do live. And we're going to go here to ChatGPT. So this is a little dangerous anytime you do something live like this, but I've had such great experiences with it. I want to do it live with you. So one thing I see parishes looking for that they struggle with finding a lot of times is great curriculum that specifically meets the desire they have or the vision they have for a small group study for their parish. Either it's not the right number of weeks or they don't love the questions and commentary. And with AI, you can use it to very specifically create a curriculum that follows exactly what you want. So I'm going to share this with you. We're going to do it live. Now, I will confess, this is a prompt that I've been working on and I've kind of honed down. As I said, the more that you use it, the more you learn how to be specific in your prompts to get what you want. But this prompt just says, I'd like you to create a 6-week small group discussion guide based on the weekly gospel reading for the Roman Catholic Church. Start with September 28th, 2025. For each week, share a scripture, a 200-word reflection, and 4 discussion questions. For each reflection, include one quote from either Pope Francis, Julianne Stans, Father Ron Rolheiser, or Pope Leo XIV. So you can be very specific as to who you want it to use as consultants or references. And I've found that the more specific you can be with that, the more you get something that is what you want. So let's see what it does here. Let's see what we get from that. So it shows you the sources that it's searching on the web there. I'm not sure if you can find those specifically. Like with Magisterium AI, it gives you the specific sources. But here we go. Here's the gospel. In Luke's parable, we find 2 men, a rich man living with luxury, the other a poor man named Lazarus, ignored at the rich man's gate. When both die, their fortunes are reversed. The rich man suffers, longing even for what Lazarus had, but the chasm can no longer be crossed. The parable confronts us with the urgency of compassion, with the fact that our choices towards the least matter eternally. And it goes on to give us a quote from Pope Francis about covetousness. And then it gives us some questions. Who is Lazarus at your gate or in your city that you may be overlooking? That's a great question. How do comfort, wealth, and security shape your decisions, particularly about generosity or solidarity? What are practical ways in which we can act now so that the chasm in the story is bridged before death, before the great reversal? I mean, I would think those would be great small group discussion questions. But you could go through, of course, and edit any reflection or question, but it gives you a great first draft. And it gives you, there you go, 6 weeks of small group study with a little bit of work after that. So Laura asked me, can you give an example of how to begin to phrase a question to Magisterium AI when asking something more vague, like how to form ministers? I would go into Magisterium or ChatGPT and say, hey, here's the type of minister that we're forming. It could be a Eucharistic minister. It could be a small group leader. I would give it some references of resources, people that you respect in that area, and then ask it to create. I wouldn't just ask for suggestions. I would ask it to create a formation plan or maybe a formation study and see what it does for you there. I think that'd be a great way to start. So I want to in with looking at another AI product, another Catholic AI product called Truthly. This week, I had a conversation with a couple of the leaders at Truthly, Ian and Jacob, and Jacob's one of the founding partners in Truthly. Truthly is an AI app that is specifically tailored towards formation for the individual. So in Truthly, they're looking more at providing something that's AI powered that helps individuals grow in their faith. So it has different ways that it does that. You can ask questions. One reason Jacob started this is because he had so many questions that he was getting asked by someone that he was evangelizing that he didn't have answers to. And he thought, where can I go for these answers? So you can ask questions. There's daily reflections. You can create study plans. There's videos to learn from. And you can share what you learn here with others with one click. So it's all about a daily growth, a consistent improvement in our spiritual journey daily. And it helps you create, it can help you create reminders and kind of a personal growth plan that you daily engage with. And so I encourage you to check that out. When I was talking with them, they wanted to let you know that for parishes, this is a paid product. I think it's pretty reasonably priced, but they also offer programs for parishes where you can get a subscription for a large group of people. But for anyone watching this webinar, they're going to provide 5 free 1-month subscriptions for your parish. So there'll be an email going out after this, and I'll put a link in it where you can reach out to Ian directly, and he will give you a link for your parish to have 5 free 1-month subscriptions to Truthly. I think that's a pretty great way for you to try it out and experience it. So as I wrap up here, I want to we got a few more questions. Father Leon Hutton said, this is very helpful. I'm glad we can feel confident using AI for ministry. Father Leon, it is so good to see you on here. Thank you for joining. You've been a faithful participant in these webinars for a long time. Elisa just wanted to remind us that Canva does have free premium access for churches. I really encourage you to take advantage of this. Canva is such a great resource, especially when you have volunteers or people that don't have a ton of training in communications. It's such a great resource for communications for your parish. And let's see. I think that's it for now. Joe said she's blown away. I'm so glad. I am too. I just experience stuff every day. I guess my closing suggestions to you would be go out there and just try it. Most of the pushback I get about AI and people that are fearful of it is from people that have never tried it, that have never experienced it. And they're reading the doom scenarios and the naysayers. I'm not saying there's nothing to worry about or fear or be concerned about. I'm also not saying we shouldn't have guidelines for it. There are best practices for using it. But the best way to get familiar with it and experience it is to go out there and just try it. So I hope that you'll do that. Look for the links that'll be in the email that goes out after this. There'll be a lot of resources for you in that. Thank you for joining us today, and hope to see you again next month. God bless.